Here are the three awardees. Cate Blanchett. She receives the award 2018 for her leadership in raising awareness for the refugee crisis. Cate Blanchett. Cate Blanchett was born in Melbourne, Australia. Already as a small child, she used to imagine stories. Today, she is an internationally acclaimed and award-winning actor and director on stage and screen. She has received 2 Academy Awards and 3 Golden Globes. Her contribution to culture has been globally recognized, and today she is considered one of the greatest actors of our times. In 2016, Cate Blanchett was appointed UNHCR Global Goodwill Ambassador in recognition of her commitment to refugees. She has traveled to numerous countries, to Lebanon, Jordan, and also to her home country, Australia, to advocate for increased solidarity and sharing responsibility for the millions of displaced people across the world. She is committed to raising awareness on issues of forced displacement, and in particular of statelessness, which affects millions of people worldwide, denying them basic rights, access to education and healthcare, and the ability to work and travel. I would like to ask Cate Blanchett now to join me on stage.
Secret's out. I'm as blind as a bat. Thank you, Mrs. Schwab and Professor Schwab and the World Economic Forum for honouring me with this award. I'm deeply grateful for the recognition it gives to the scale and severity of the global refugee crisis, along with the acknowledgement that we all have a stake in identifying and enacting solutions. So we hear the alarming statistics, 66 million almost human beings forcibly displaced around the world. And we see the fallout from continued failure of world leaders to secure peace, whilst in many quarters there's divisive and polarising language being used for political gain that gnaws away at our empathy and our compassion. And we sense the geopolitical, the social and the economic and the environmental threats that will drive yet more human flows. And we understand that lost generations of uneducated, disenfranchised and displaced children not only represents a vast loss of potential, but also a threat for future global security and prosperity. So surely we must now accept our role in finding new ways to respond to the refugee crisis, both in the short term, but also across the years and years of exile, to ensure that refugees are less victim and burden and more actors and participants alongside their host communities to the benefit of all. Now in Davos this week, there will be full of talk of disruption, the fourth industrial revolution, shared solutions in a fractured world. But nowhere is the fractured world more humanly embodied than in the refugee. It's a person who's uprooted from all that they hold dear, forced to flee, often resented and reviled in the country where they settle, labelled as an economic burden or a terrorist threat. And this is the narrative that we truly need to disrupt. Since when did we lose our focus on the human, on our commonalities, on our shared bonds, on there but for the grace of God? Now, I feel incredibly privileged to have had the opportunity to work with UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, as a Goodwill Ambassador, and to get into the field and meet refugees firsthand. And in Jordan, in a meagre shelter in Azraq camp, I met Shadi. And Shadi had been twice displaced, first from Syria and then from Yemen. And his heartache was clear as he showed me these very fragmented, worn, much-loved, precious photos of his parents and his brothers, long since separated, and perhaps he was never to see them again. And Shadi had left behind, when he fled, his own ambitions of becoming a scientist, like his heroes Pierre and Marie Curie and Albert Einstein. But ever resourceful, he challenged his energies instead into the future of others and he worked as a volunteer teacher in the camp, imparting his knowledge and his love of science to refugee children, building in them both the skills but also the desire to one day return home to their country to rebuild it. Because Einstein had been a refugee too. So if we can just drop for one moment the loaded label of refugee, just to see the person behind it. Shadi, an aspirational, technically gifted, resilient, generous man, father, husband, teacher, and we can begin to move him from them to us. Because it's very, very easy to turn our backs on the abstraction of the enormous numbers of those in need, on the others. But standing face to face with just one human being, staring them in the eye, hearing their story, and experiencing our common humanity, it's much harder to do nothing. Because once you've borne witness, you cannot turn away. Now, in this room, and over the course of the week, there's an incredible opportunity to reconnect and start transformative thinking, and turn this thinking into transformative action. Now, whether your lens is one of sustainable profit or business integrity or competitive advantage, innovation, creativity or security, please consider the incredible opportunities that come from engaging in this issue and with organisations like UNHCR, and perhaps the longer-term risks of not doing so. But beyond that, as people, as parents, sons, daughters, effective leaders, inspiring role models, and people who understand the value of legacy, consider why this is important to you, and I ask you to be reinvigorated by your moral compass. Now, the New York Declaration has given a huge opportunity to us this year, to the states, to the private sector, to civil society, to UN agencies and NGOs, to develop a template for a more sustainable solution to the displacement scenarios. And by marrying humanitarian and development action and drawing on business acumen and resources and technological capabilities of the private sector, we can achieve far more effective and genuinely shared solutions. So we think not just of sheltering and feeding refugees, that's incredibly important, but also connecting them and developing their capacities and welcoming their skills, their resilience and their hope. So alongside some inspiring business leaders who are already making huge and innovative contributions and who actually made it here tonight in the snow, Filippo Grandi, who's the UNHCR High Commissioner, will be here. Unfortunately not tonight, he's still on his way, but he'll be here with you all week. And he is a remarkable man. He's an innovative and compassionate strategist. So I urge you to take the time to engage with him and with the UNHCR team to see how we can best work together on those shared solutions. This award is far much more for him than me, and it's an honour to work with the UNHCR. And definitely, Professor Schwab, I'm here with my soul. Thank you very much.